Sorry about that. First thing in the morning and that. Yeah, it's all right. I didn't plug the microphone in. That was intentional. All right. Can everybody hear me? It looks like we have a decision. Big breaking news. Talk sport. Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk will go ahead in the coming months after step-aside deals were rejected. TalkSport understands Joshua and Whyte both turned down substantial fees to allow Fury and Usyk to make an undisputed heavyweight title fight. Fury versus Whyte will now go to purse bids tomorrow evening, with the two parties failing to reach an agreement during the free period of negotiations. The Joshua versus Usyk rematch, meanwhile, is expected to go ahead in the spring. So, I want to play you Tyson Fury. I thought the deal had been done for Fury and Whyte this morning. I thought that they'd come to some kind of agreement, but according to TalkSport, it's going to go to purse bids tomorrow. Let me tell you now, if the Zone get the fight, I don't care. I don't care who fucking promotes it. I don't give a shit what network it's on. I don't give a shit, right? As long as that fight's on, the fight's on. But Anthony Joshua, has he made the biggest mistake of his career by turning down huge amounts of money to do absolutely nothing and get a guaranteed shot at the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship? We'll find out in a couple months' time. I don't know, honestly. I really don't know, but we'll find out. Let's hear from Fury. This is Tyson Fury about 1 hour ago.
I can't wait to punch Dillian Whyte's face right in, mate. I'm going to give him the best eye that he's ever had in his life, boy. Dillian Whyte, train hard, soccer, because you're getting annihilated, bum.
I take it you heard that audio nicely and clearly there. So that's the breaking news. That's what it is. Apparently, it's been decided, yeah? Whyte and Fury's on. Usyk and Joshua's on. Get your comments in, man. What do you guys think? Is that the biggest mistake of Anthony Joshua's career? Turning down. Some people believe he's turned down somewhere in the region of between 10, 15 million. We don't know what the figure is yet. We'll find out. No doubt Eddie Hearn will be all over IFL TV. I would say you probably hear from Eddie Hearn on IFL TV probably within the next 12 hours, I would say. Wouldn't surprise me if you hear something today. But it will all come out, how much money he's turned down. Is that the biggest mistake of Anthony Joshua's career? Let me tell you something, right? I think he should have stepped aside. But I tell you what, if he has turned down that amount of money to take a rematch with Usyk on pride and pride alone, then you have to give Anthony Joshua
Whyte's face.
Sorry about that. You have to give Anthony Joshua a hell of a lot of credit for doing that. I'm sorry. I think he should step aside. Everybody, you have to understand, everybody in Team AJ, I promise you, from fucking trainers to Eddie Hearn to everybody, would have been telling AJ, step aside. Don't take this fight. Step aside. He's taking it. And you just have to give him the utmost respect for doing it, because it makes no financial sense to do it. To be honest, it makes absolutely no financial sense from Anthony Joshua to turn down that fight. But he's doing it based on pride. I think I honestly, I can't wait to hear his next interview. I honestly believe the only reason he's not turning it down is because he can't walk it back. You know, he said he's a throwback fighter. He said all this kind of stuff, been talking about resumes and top tens and talking about how old school he is. And he can't roll it back. Let's go through some of your comments. It's a baffling decision. It is an absolute baffling decision. On the 90 million, a lot of people are laughing at the 90 million. I don't think when Tyson Fury says AJ and Eddie Hearn turned down 90 million, I think what they're saying is, right, they're saying 90 million because they're talking about the step-aside fee plus what would have been made if AJ and Fury had fought, if that makes sense, right? So it doesn't mean AJ literally turned down 90 million to step aside. What he's saying is it's going to work out at 90 million because he's basically saying AJ is going to get beat by Usyk again, so he's not going to get the Fury fight. So basically, he's wasted 90 million, right? And that's what I'm afraid of, you know? That's what I'm afraid of. From an Anthony Joshua fan perspective, it's good because you get to see your man fight. It's good because you get to see your man try and redeem himself in a couple of months' time in a fight which I think he can win. And I have said that from day one. I believe that Anthony Joshua can beat Usyk because I honestly don't think we're going to see a worse Anthony Joshua than what we saw in that first fight. I don't believe it. And the way I see it is if he improves even a little bit and it goes to the judges' scorecards, the judges are going to give him the fight. So I believe that there's a good chance Anthony Joshua is going to retain those titles, right? Simply because I think if it goes the distance and he looks even a shade better than he did in the first fight, I think he'll get the judge's decision. He's going to be at home again. He's going to be at home. He's going to have his judges, the usual, his referees, the usual stuff. Yeah, it's on his promotion, so the cards are stacked in his favor. So if you ask me, I'm backing Anthony Joshua to win the rematch, and I have done from the get-go purely because not really on boxing skill. Again, I'm basing Anthony Joshua to win based on the fact that I believe we're going to see an improvement in his performance, and I believe it will go to the judges. But I will say one thing about this Anthony Joshua versus Usyk rematch before we get into Whyte and Fury, okay? I'm a little bit concerned because I honestly think, Anthony Joshua might do something really stupid, like come in heavy and try to blast this guy out of there, Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Anthony Joshua weigh in at his heaviest weight in a very, very long time in that Usyk rematch. I honestly think, he's going to bulk up, walk in that ring, and just try to get rid of him. But you know what a funny thing is? And what a lot of people didn't understand about the first fight, and what a lot of people don't understand right now. Usyk's work rate is absolutely unbelievable. And Anthony Joshua has a very, very questionable gas tank. And if he does come in heavier, and if he does load up on his punches, and he can't get Usyk out of there very, very early on, I'm not sure he's going to see the final bell, Genuinely, I'm not sure he's going to see the final bell. It's not going to be as simple as what people think. It's not going to be as simple as AJ going back to the old AJ 245, 250, stalking Usyk and putting the shots together. Usyk is very clever, and Usyk's going to take the fight to him, and that's going to be the difference. Usyk, I said for the first fight, I didn't get the prediction right, but in terms of how the fight would go, how Usyk would fight, I said Usyk is not going to stand off Anthony Joshua. And I don't know if people remember that going into the first fight. People were saying Usyk's going to dance around the ring and stand off and box a move. And I said, Usyk will not stand off Anthony Joshua. He will not. He will fight in the pocket against him. And I said that. He will sit in the pocket, he'll make him miss, and he'll make him pay. That's how Usyk fights. Usyk's not going to run from Anthony Joshua. He didn't run from Anthony Joshua the first time, and he ain't going to run from him the second time. Usyk's going to come right in the pocket. He's going to meet Anthony Joshua in the center of the ring. He's not going to bounce around on the outside unless he's hurt. If Anthony Joshua's not hurting him, Usyk's going to be in the pocket, but it's going to be the angles that are going to be the difference. As I said before, it's going to be the angles. He'll be up close in the pocket, but he'll be looking to place himself in at angles where Anthony Joshua can't land that right hand. And that's going to be the difference in the fight. And like I said before, if AJ comes in heavier and starts going all guns blazing and he doesn't get Usyk out of there, I think his gas tank's going to go. And I think Usyk might get him out of there. I think Usyk needs the knockout to win, to be honest. If you're Usyk, you need the knockout to win. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very, very interesting. My mouse isn't working at the minute because StreamYard is oh, here we go. It's working now. StreamYard's pathetic. But we'll go through your comments right now. Sorry, let me just... I should... Oh. A bit. Am I still there? There we go. Sorry about that. My microphone hit the table. Sorry, I should be at work really at the minute, doing some development. So we'll go through your comments in just a sec. Right, let's sorry about that. Let's go through them. Right. Let's go through your comments on AJ versus Usyk. And then we'll talk about Whyte versus... I honestly thought that we were going to have a deal between Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury. After hearing what Tyson Fury said this morning, I thought that meant a deal had been done and then it wouldn't be going to purse bids. But according to TalkSport, that's not what's going to happen. Let's just do a quick refresh. Nothing there from Michael Benson. Michael Benson works at TalkSport, so you think if he'd heard anything, he'd have posted that. But we'll have to wait and see. Right, let's go through this. Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk is on, according to TalkSport. Do you think, yes or no, it's a smart decision? Yes or no? What's the fuck? Shevan's here. I might even get Shevan on if he wants to come on. Right, let's do this. John Smith says Usyk's style fares better against robotic styles like AJ and Vlad. Johnny Nelson said years ago that Usyk was giving Vladimir big problems in sparring, and this was in 2015 with the spongy ring. Vladimir Klitschko is just a disgrace in my opinion. Simon H says I won't believe anybody until the contract is signed. Absolutely. Even if White and Fury goes to purse bids and DAZN win the purse bid and everything, and you never know with Fury. Fury could pull out at any given moment, so you never know what's going on. Listen, let me tell you something. I don't think it's a cast iron fact that Anthony Joshua is going to turn up to fight Usyk, to be honest. I think you might see some kind of delay or some kind of injury. I don't think it's cast iron that Anthony Joshua is going to turn up and fight Usyk on the original date. It wouldn't surprise me if he pulls out or he's injured, because time's a real problem right now for Anthony Joshua. I'd like someone to ask him, what is the status of this new trainer and has he sorted out his team yet? Because it's a very, very, very fast turnaround. And like I said before, Anthony Joshua's made that decision. In my opinion, he's made that on pride and pride alone. There's just no financial or boxing sense that's gone into he can still win anyway, right? He can still win anyway, right? But as we're sitting here today, there's no financial sense or boxing acumen in the decision that he's made. It's just not. And if he gets beat by Usyk, it's going to go down as one of the worst decisions of a long time. You know, if he does lose to Usyk in a rematch, particularly if he gets knocked out by Usyk in a rematch, it's going to go down as a howler, isn't it? Yes or no? What do you think? I think if he loses to Usyk, it will go down as a howler. Mark Stanton says, so is AJ still a smart businessman? We're going to find out in a couple of months' time. We're going to find out in 3-4 months' time. Because if Usyk clocks him and takes him out, it's a horrendous decision. Because everybody's advised him to step aside. I'm not even a big AJ fan. And I've said, look, AJ, just step aside. Step aside. It's the right thing to do, but you've got to give him credit, man. He's got heart. He has got pure heart, Anthony Joshua. To go in and turn down that amount of money. Now, he's got heart. Alphabet Boxing says, AJ going to get slapped up by Usyk. Davies and Dave says AJ was probably listening last night. I don't think so. Alphabet Boxing says it's the worst decision ever. James Lord says if social media didn't exist, Joshua wouldn't hesitate. Anxiety, Anthony. I fear for him against Usyk. I really do. I agree with you on that. I think if social media didn't exist, he'd turn it down. He'd turn it down. I think you're going to hear that in his interview. He'll do an interview with Kugan Cassius, Anthony Joshua, probably in the next week or so. And Anthony Joshua will probably turn around himself and say, look, I could have turned this down. I could have taken a lot of money, but I'm a throwback fighter. I'm a warrior. I don't want to let my fans down. That's the kind of stuff he'll come out with. But we'll find out. He's got enough money anyway. He's got enough money. And listen, it's good for boxing. Well, it's not really, because what would be good for boxing is to see Undisputed. That's what's really, because let's be honest, isn't it? What's really good for boxing is to see Undisputed, isn't it? Really? Because let's be honest, does Anthony Joshua really deserve a rematch based on his last performance? No, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve a rematch. Obviously, they railroaded Usyk into one contractually, but realistically, after the performance from Usyk, there is no need for a rematch. Usyk went in the ring, beat him up for 9 out of 12 rounds, and then he got him out of there in the last round in his own backyard. We don't really need to see the rematch, do we? So it is what it is. Ben Ellis says Dillian catches Fury with those long ass arms and an overhand right. I don't know about that. We'll have to see. I think Dillian Whyte and Fury is all about Fury. That's all about what Tyson Fury turns up. Is he fit? Is he in shape? Is he switched on? Is he motivated? And does he use the right tactics? I think that fight's all about what Fury does, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. I think we'll have to see. Anything can happen in boxing, though. Anything can happen in the sport of boxing. But if Tyson Fury comes in 100% and switched on, I don't think anybody can beat him. I think the only one who's got any chance is Usyk. But like I said before, Dillian Whyte can win the fight because bigger upsets have happened in the history of boxing. Joe, AJ talked himself into a corner and committed himself to a shit decision. That's what I think it is, to be honest. You know, I think it's a bad decision. It's a really bad decision. And like I said before, if Usyk wipes him out, it's going to go down as one of the worst decisions in boxing. He's going to get the irony is, right, there's going to be the same people that told him not to take the step aside are going to be the same people that throw him in the bin for not taking a step aside if he gets beaten by Usyk. He can't really win, and he should know that by now. Anthony Joshua, of all people, should know that by now. He can't really win, so it is what it is. The Shadows Project Limited. I think AJ has no chance against Usyk. If he boxes, he loses. If he trades, he will gas. Just can't see how he would win. Lost 9 rounds to 3 last time. Now, he landed a lot of shots on Usyk, and he hurt Usyk midway through the fight, so he can definitely win the fight. People forget that. He hurt Usyk. He hit him with a big shot, and he hurt Usyk. And if you look at Usyk's face, Usyk was cut up. I mean, Usyk he was landing some shots on Usyk. I mean, midway through, I think he was like 6 and 7 or something. It looked like Anthony Joshua was going to take the fight over and get it done. So, nah, he's in it. Anthony Joshua absolutely can win this fight. I think he will because, like I said before, I think the deck is stacked in his favour. If you held the fight in a neutral location, neutral judges, neutral promotion, I'm going with Usyk in the rematch, but it's not. The deck is stacked in AJ's favour, and there's too much money invested in him. I don't think they're going to. Do you really think they're going to let the gravy train end? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to let a Ukrainian cruiserweight end the gravy train unless he knocks him out. Roadman says AJ just has to have a bad day and his career is over. His career's not over, but any hope of him going down as the all-time great heavyweight of his generation will be evaporated if he gets beat by Usyk. That's it. Like, he will not be considered the greatest heavyweight of his time again. But his career won't be over. Joe says, even if AJ wins this fight, I'll maintain that his decision wasn't fantastic. Best of luck to him, though. I think if AJ wins the fight, he comes out looking like $1 million, doesn't he? He looks great, doesn't he? Like the guy who turned down all this money to fight Usyk comes back, redeems himself, gets back his titles. Listen, it's a good seller, isn't it? It's a good seller, and I think if Anthony Joshua comes back and wins the rematch, his stock is going to be at an all-time high. Amongst the British public, his stock will be at an all-time high, in my prediction. The guy who turned down an awful lot of money and took a fight on principle. I think British people love that kind of thing. Whether it's the smart thing to do, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. Let's have a look. Major Music says AJ is in trouble. His fans be shitting themselves. Of course. We'll see though. I'm going with him to win in the rematch. Davies and Dave says, well done to AJ, as we would have been slating him if he had stepped aside. I wouldn't have been. I think he should have stepped aside, but he would have got a lot of flack. But financially, I don't see it. I don't see it financially. I'm just trying to quickly look at my phone to see if there's any more news on this AJ and Tyson Fury thing. Just give me a sec. Just doing a quick refresh to see if there's anything else. Fury's posting videos at the minute of himself training in the gym. The way Fury's going on, it's like a deal's been done. You wouldn't think that it was going to purse with the way Fury's acting. The way Fury's acting on Instagram right now, see if I can show you, indicates that there might be a chance of a deal here, because it looks like it's done. This is Tyson Fury at the minute, currently in his gym training. He looks like he's up for it. It's like someone's told him, you're fighting on this date against blah, blah, blah. But we'll find out. We'll know pretty soon. Joe says, and yes, AJ started lifting for muscle again. Joe says, and yes, AJ started lifting for muscle gain again. Usyk spars for 15 rounds. A bulky AJ won't deliver. That is my one concern for Anthony Joshua going into this fight, you know. That's like my one big concern for Anthony Joshua going into this fight. That is my one big concern for Anthony Joshua going into this fight. Now, he's going to bulk it up. He's going to come in 240, 250 or whatever. He's going to come in a bit heavier, and he's going to load up, because he's got a problem setting up his punches. He loads up a lot in his punches. He telegraphs his punches. And if Usyk, even if Usyk gets hurt early on, if Usyk's able to get hurt, weather the storm and stay in there past the first two, I think, like I always say this, but I think the first 3-4 rounds are going to kind of tell us, you know. You know what? When Usyk and Anthony Joshua fought the first time, I kind of knew that Anthony Joshua was going to be in trouble from the first round, because the first round he allowed Usyk to take over, take the center of the ring, push him out of the ring, and just from that moment I thought, oh my gosh, this is something's going to happen tonight. But we'll know. I think we'll know pretty early on, because if Anthony Joshua can't land anything concussive early on Alexander Usyk, I don't think it's going to look good for him. To be honest, that's my opinion. I think he has to go out there and put a dent in Usyk and put a dent in him early. And I think we're going to see something like that. You remember when Deontay Wilder was in the last chance saloon against Tyson Fury? And you see how Deontay Wilder came out, started fast. I think AJ is going to have to come out and start fast. I don't think he's going to. But then again, he's cautious by nature, isn't he? So we'll see. Nick Vandelberg says, maybe if AJ has to lose, would he rather lose to Usyk than lose to Fury in what would be a career-defining fight? Yeah, but you lose to Fury. Fury's arguably going to go down as the greatest heavyweight of his era, and he makes 100 million to go out. So you'd want to go out against Fury. And then he can do a rematch as well, because don't forget, if he fights Fury, there'll probably be a rematch. Now, let's have a look here. Blah, 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 blah. James Lord says Joshua will come into the ring shaking. Anxiety is nothing to laugh at, you know. Anxiety is nothing to laugh at. I suffer from it. It's fucking awful. We don't know. I've speculated. We don't know for sure. None of us have seen his medical records. We don't know. I think he does. I think he does suffer from anxiety. And I think there's somebody who I speak to who's got, I wouldn't say he's got any inside information, but somebody who I speak to on a regular basis is quite good friends with somebody inside the Anthony Joshua camp. So I don't think I'm far off in what I'm saying. Shevin says he thinks it's a solid decision by AJ not to step aside. George C says either way we'll get essays from casuals over whether AJ will weigh 244 or 245 pounds. He's got to be able to set up his shots and stop telegraphing his shots, you know. I don't think people understand how important it is that he learns how to feint, disguise, and not telegraph his shots, because if he's loading up on his shots and Usyk's able to see them, ride them, roll under them, it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to come out in this rematch, and I think he's going to start real fast at Anthony Joshua. That's my opinion. I think he's going to come out, he's going to start real fast. And I think we'll get kind of an inkling as to what's going to happen pretty early on. My worry for him is, right? The more he comes forward and loads up, the more gaps there are going to be for Usyk to hit him with. Because at the end of the day, a robot's a robot. Do you know what I mean? A robot's a robot at the end of the day, isn't he? Truth though, isn't it? A robot's a robot. And Usyk can counterpunch. And let me tell you the shot that I like for Alexander Usyk, right? And I'll tell you it in advance, yeah? You know the shot I like for Alexander Usyk in that rematch? Overhand left. That's the shot I like for Usyk in that rematch. Overhand left. Let's have a look. Roadman says Tyson is unbeatable. Wilder could beat up Whyte, AJ, and Usyk. Tyson Fury is very, very far from unbeatable. He ain't even close right now. He's arguably on a downward slide. TalkSport also reported that Wilder took step aside. Do you know what, Chev? It's very interesting that Michael Benson works for TalkSport, right? You would think he would have pounced. You would think he would have pounced on this information, but he hasn't, has he? You thought he would have pounced. See this article here from Sean O'Brien. Well, him and Michael Benson all work for the same company. So you would have thought if this was on, he would have pounced on it. But I don't think AJ's taking it. I'm pretty confident that we're going to see Whyte and Fury and AJ and Usyk. So I don't think AJ's going to step aside. He ain't going to do it. Let's have a look. Golden Mike says, I bet Whyte refused to play ball with the zone and Matchroom. Yeah. And they're saying that as well. The article says that both Whyte and Fury turned it down. Good on Dillian Whyte for turning it down. Right decision. This is the best shot he's got of becoming a world champion. Tyson Fury, right, had to pick himself off the canvas twice in a very, very grueling fight. And he looks as slow and hittable as he's ever looked in his career. So it's time now for Dillian Whyte to get to, if he wants to be a champion, now's the time, really. He's not going to have a better time. Because if he fights AJ, he can forget about it. He's not beating Anthony Joshua, in my opinion. So he can forget about it. So it's now or never for Dillian Whyte. So he's right to turn it down and get the fight, and that's it. Let's have a look. Richard from Twitter says the only 2 rounds that AJ had any success in was when he stopped Usyk stepping to his right and getting off his own right hand. Needs to settle on the strategy rather than trying to blast him out. Let me tell you this now. So all I can tell you is this. If you had this fight in a neutral location on a neutral promotion with neutral referees and judges, I'm going with Alexander Usyk to win this fight by stoppage. But because of the matchroom factor, because it's going to be in the UK, because it's probably going to get Howard Foster as a judge or a ref and these kind of things, and because of the money that's involved with Anthony Joshua, I'm going to go with Anthony Joshua to win this fight. I think if Anthony Joshua is still standing on his feet, it's going to take a very, very brave judge to go against him, because it really is the end this time. There's no fucking rematch clauses or anything. It really is. It really is the end of the gravy train. Not completely, but the gravy train really will be derailed. So let me tell you something. When AJ is standing in the fucking I don't see it. I don't see it. Major Music's talking nonsense. He says, I'm new to this channel and it's the most unbiased by far. This is the most biased channel you will ever see. Pro Frank Warren. I wouldn't say a little bit pro Fury. Pro Frank Warren, certainly. Pro Queensby Promotions. Very, very anti-Matcham. Very, very anti-Eddie Hearn. We're about as biased as it gets. But don't forget to hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. There we go. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe if you have not already. Let's have a look here. Steve, I can never pronounce your name. Steve Titlebaum says, I think the credibility of AJ was crucial. Absolutely. It makes no sense to me. But like I said before, we'll wait and see what's happening. I'm going to go and do a quick check on the news. Shadow Project says, Ultra, if you think AJ will win the rematch, why do you say it's a bad decision not to step aside? I don't understand. Financially, he would get more by not stepping aside. Well, I mean, the only thing I would say is, right, it's less of a risk, isn't it? To me, I could be wrong, you could be right, but for me, it's less of a risk, isn't it? He goes and fights Usyk, right? Could be a grueling fight. He could get wear and tear in him, right? He might win. He could beat Usyk. He might get knocked down a couple of times and have to come back. You know, Klitschko nearly put his lights out, and then he came back to win that fight. We don't know what type of fight it is. I'm saying, does it make more sense for Anthony Joshua to not have to go through a training camp, to not have to go through a grueling fight and put your body through 12 rounds, 9 rounds, 6 rounds, or however long it will be, right? To get millions of pounds for doing absolutely nothing and to be virtually guaranteed a shot at the undisputed title. If he fights Usyk, right, and loses, there's no more shot at the undisputed title, right? And so it is what it is. I don't know. I think there's a reason why everybody around him thinks he should do it. It's not just me saying this. I'm not the outlier. Everybody's saying he should step aside, and they're doing that for a reason, because it makes sense. But you have to give the guy credit. You know, someone made a comment, right? And they're absolutely correct. You know, somebody said, as a boxing fan, why would you want AJ to step aside? You'd want to see this fight, and that's kind of right, isn't it? Maybe I'm a bit too much. Maybe I'm a bit too being too casual. Maybe I should be saying, look, from a boxing perspective. Maybe I'm saying, look, from a boxing perspective, we should see the fight. I mean, I think from a boxing perspective, we should be seeing undisputed, right? Do you know what I mean? I mean, from a boxing perspective, you want to be seeing undisputed. I don't even want to, but it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. James Lord says 99% certain Usyk knocks out Joshua this time. He won't show no mercy. Usyk has room to improve, and that space will be filled. Usyk's a different type of animal, man. You know what we said about Usyk in the first fight, and it stands true. Anthony Joshua has never seen anything like Alexander Usyk. You know, he hasn't. This guy. People need to understand. This is why I keep saying resume. AJ's resume. This guy's nothing like no Taka, no Parker, no Andy Ruiz, no Povetkin. Usyk's cut from a different cloth. People need to get that in their heads about this fucking resume bollocks. All this resume bollocks don't mean nothing when you get in with Usyk, because Usyk's no Takam. He's no fucking 38-year-old Povetkin, right? He's no Joseph Parker. He's no Eric Molina. He's no Dominic Brazil. He's no Charles Martin. He's a completely different kettle of fish. He's never lost in a professional boxing ring. And the one thing we said about Alexander Usyk, yeah? Every time the stakes are raised, he ups his performance. Before the Gassiev fight, to me, he looked very, very vulnerable in the run-up to the Gassiev fight. Goes in against the biggest puncher he's ever been in with, and he dominates him and hardly gets hit. Looked very, very vulnerable against Bellew and Witherspoon before he gets in with AJ. Goes in with the biggest punch he's ever been in with, and he nearly takes him out in his own backyard. This guy is something else. People need to understand this guy's different, man. This isn't one of these fucking O2 Arena opponents that AJ's not in the O2 Arena anymore against Dennis Backtoff. Joseph Parker. He ain't in Cardiff anymore against Joseph Parker, where these guys are turning up. And do they really believe they could win? When Joseph Parker turned up to fight Anthony Joshua, did he really believe he could win? When Joseph Parker fought Anthony Joshua, did Joseph Parker fight like a guy who believed he could win? Yes or no? What do you think? When Joseph Parker fought Anthony Joshua for the Unified Championship of the World, did Joseph Parker fight like a guy who really, really believed he could beat Anthony Joshua? Or did he fight like a guy who was content to not get stopped? When Charles Martin fought Anthony Joshua for the IBF World Heavyweight Championship, did Charles Martin fight like a guy who really believed he could beat Anthony Joshua? Or did he fight like a guy who didn't want to get knocked out stone cold and take that £3 million payday? What do you think? Yes or no? Usyk's different, man. This guy's never lost in a professional ring. He's never lost. Sorry, let me get rid of this cunt. Hold on one sec. Fuck out of here. He's never lost, Usyk. And in Usyk's mind, he's not going to lose. Do you know that? In Usyk's mind, he's not going to lose. He's unlike any opponent AJ's faced. And this is the reason why, like I said before, when Anthony Joshua gets in, one sec, sorry. Cool. When Anthony Joshua gets in, right? I think it's gonna affect him a little bit because he thrives. Anthony Joshua, look, at the end of the day, he's a bit of an on-top bully based on what we've seen, right? He's a bit of an on-top bully, isn't he? He's a bit of an on-top bully, in my opinion. So we'll have to wait and see. He's a bit of an on-top bully, and he likes getting in a ring with opponents who have beaten before they get in. Makes sense? Likes getting in with the Brazils and the Parkers. These guys are just coming in. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to get knocked out. Usyk's a different kettle of fish. Usyk in that rematch will be coming to get him out of there. He'll meet him in the center of the ring. Promise you. He's not going to run. Alexander Usyk's not going to run from Anthony Joshua. He's not going to run it unless he gets hurt early on. But I'm telling you now, he's not going to run. He's going to sit in the pocket and he's going to look for Anthony Joshua to throw. He's going to meet Anthony Joshua in the center of the ring, right? And he's going to wait for AJ to load up and he's going to counter. End of story. End of story. Simple as that. And he's already hurt Anthony Joshua. He's already hurt him multiple times, isn't he? So he knows he's got the power. Boxing Pound for Pound Jack says, is it purse bids or have Fury and Whyte reached a deal? Well, Talk Sport are saying it's purse bids, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Talk Sport are saying it's purse bids, but there's something in the way that Fury's going on at the minute that makes me think they might be able to do something. You might hear something today about a deal, to be honest. But we'll wait and see. Look, let me just quickly say, if it's on DAZN, as far as I'm concerned, Fury needs to fight. I simple as that. I want to see this fight now. I don't care. I don't care who's promoting it. Steph D07 says, I expect Fury to deal with Whyte first 5 rounds. He beat my boy Wilder and Whyte hasn't got half the heart. He goes down practically every fight. Straight bum rush from Fury and it's done. Fury and Whyte, I'll be honest, I sat down and watched Povetkin versus Whyte 2 the other day, right? In detail. Right? I sat down and watched Povetkin versus Whyte 2 in detail. I honestly don't know, and again, nobody has ever explained technically how Dillian Whyte is going to beat Tyson Fury. Other than lightning striking, right? Other than lightning striking, a la Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, yeah? A la Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua. Can anybody come up with any kind of real game plan that Whyte can use? I mean, Whyte is going to you would feel White is really going to struggle with the height and the reach, to be honest. I think the height and the reach alone, he's going. I think he could really struggle, personally. I really think Dillian Whyte could struggle in that fight with Fury. A lot of it depends if Fury's switched on. We don't know what Fury's training camp's going to be. We don't know what kind of shape Fury's going to be in. Like I said, Fury's slow, hittable. Maybe Deontay Wilder took something away from him in that third fight. We don't know. These are all questions that are only going to be answered on the night. But looking at it from the outside, I think the height and the reach is going to be such a massive problem for Dillian Whyte to overcome, because he's a guy. He actually is quite a good counter puncher. So the one thing I will say for Dillian Whyte is if Tyson Fury gets too close and smothers his own work, cause you see how Tyson Fury gets Wilder, getting way too close, walking in straight lines, not moving his head, these kind of things, right? Dillian Whyte's actually a very, very capable counter puncher. But if Tyson Fury does something like just gets him at the end of the jab, end of the jab, end of the jab, end of the jab. And if Tyson Fury systematically breaks him down over 11 and 12 rounds, it's going to be a very, very hard fight for Whyte to survive, if that makes sense. Distance is the key for Fury. Doesn't need to get involved with Whyte. If you see Fury start pushing it too much, if you see Tyson Fury start pushing it too much, walking Whyte down early on, getting involved, lots of clinching, lots of inside work from Fury, that's not a good game plan. Does that make sense? Fury doesn't need to be on the inside of Whyte early on. Fury needs to be on the inside of Whyte at the end of the fight. But for the beginning of the fight, Fury needs to be pumping that jab. Doesn't matter if he's coming forward doing it. He needs to be stepping forward and jab, pushing Whyte back behind the jab, but giving himself space and not smothering his own work. And if he does that, it's going to be an incredibly hard fight for Dillian Whyte to survive. It's going to be an incredibly hard fight for Dillian Whyte to survive. If Fury uses the range and the distance properly, he can do it with this new Kronk style. He can do it with the new Kronk style. He can push forward behind the jab and he can spear the jab. What he needs to do is not fall in. Yeah? And that's all I'm saying. He just needs to make sure he doesn't fall in. If you see Fury start falling into the inside and there being lots of clinching and lots of inside work and the heads are going in early on, Dillian Whyte's got a genuine chance, because Dillian Whyte can counterpunch. He's got a very awkward style, Dillian Whyte, because he's a bit ungamely, isn't he? But he does things that are very, very awkward. So what the kind of things Dillian Whyte does in fights is he'll throw a very, very big telegraphed right hand and he'll completely twist his body around, twist his hips to the right hand, and he'll almost take himself off balance. And you think, fuck, this guy's no threat. But then what he does is he then turns around and turns his full body weight into a counter left hook off that right hand. So he's very, very ungainly because he throws that right hand. Dillian Whyte's got one of some of the worst feet I've ever seen in heavyweight boxing, by the way. His feet are appalling, Dillian Whyte. And that's probably going to get him into massive trouble in this fight with Fury. Right? When we get Skills Pay the Bills to come on here, hopefully, I'll show you Dillian Whyte's footwork. Dillian Whyte crosses his feet. He throws his shots in. Dillian Whyte crosses his feet. When Dillian Whyte throws the right hand, his back leg comes through and he squares up. His footwork is appalling. But it is what it is. But he does things that are a bit unorthodox. Makes sense. His footwork's all over the place. But if you watch his fight with Povetkin, he's off balance for like half the fight. Just look at Dillian Whyte's feet when he's throwing that right hand. He's off balance for half of that fight with Povetkin. He throws the right hand, he's all over the place. You know, Fury, like I said before, just needs to keep him at the end of the jab. And if he does that, Whyte will do the work for him, because Dillian's completely unbalanced. He'll throw the right hand, he'll be off his feet, he'll be there to be counterpunched. His footwork is as bad as I've ever seen in heavyweight boxing. But like I said before, he does have a good knack of counterpunching. So we'll have to wait and see. And like I said before, what worries me is something where if you switch off against someone like Dillian, if you switch off, he can get you in trouble. Because like I said before, he can look very unbalanced, he can look very ungainly, he can look like you're on top. He throws that little right hand, he misses it. He looks like he's completely off balance and out of the question, and then he snaps it and turns it into a left hook. And he's got a very, very heavy left hook. Ben Ellis, Whyte will hurt Fury bad at some point if they fight. Okay, I disagree, but we'll see. But it won't be because Whyte is technically better. Fury will take his eye off the ball and get sloppy. Yeah, anything can happen. I think, look, you have to look at it logically. It's a hard fight for Dillian. It's going to be a hard fight for Dillian to survive. It's going to be a very, very hard fight for Dillian to get out of there, to get out of there without being stopped, to be honest. Fury, we'll go back to AJ and Usyk in a minute. I'll tell you now, the Fury game plan to beat Dillian Whyte is very, very simple. All right? Jab, jab, 1-2 off the jab. That's what you'll see. You won't see any. You're not going to see no special effects. You won't see no special effects. The height and the reach advantage that Dillian's going to have to overcome is going to be massive. Dillian's 6'4", Tyson 6'9". All right. Dillian sets everything up off his jab. If Tyson Fury fights the right fight, Dillian won't have a jab in this fight. If Dillian doesn't have his jab, he's going to have very, very little offense he's going to set up. If Tyson gets him into the jab, he see all the little footwork flaws that he's got as he tries to close distance, where he tries to throw that. Because Dillian will be throwing, what Dillian will do, Dillian's going to try and make it a close fight. Dillian will be throwing overhand rights. That's what I think will happen. Dillian's going to try and make it a bull in the China shop fight. He's going to bum rush Tyson Fury. He's going to rush in. He's going to get up on the inside. He'll be headbutting, throwing elbows. And the shot that Dillian will be looking to throw is the overhand right. And he can left hook off his overhand right as well. But that's the shot that Dillian will be looking to do. Dillian will be looking to rush Tyson Fury, get up on the inside, heads, arms, elbows. He'll be throwing overhand rights at Fury. And then off those overhand rights, he'll be looking to throw left hooks and stuff like that. Those are the kind of shots that he'll be looking to throw. Overhand right. Overhand right is what he'll be using to close distance on Fury. Be walking himself into range. Overhand right, smother, elbows, arms, head, shoulders, left hook. Overhand right, left hook. That's the kind of combination that I believe Dillian Whyte will be trying to throw in that fight. He'll be trying to back Tyson Fury up, because if Dillian Whyte's on the back foot, it's not going to look good. I think Fury is going to go jab, jab. Fury will try and hold the center of the ring, and Fury will just go jab, 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 1-2 over the top. Very similar to what you saw in the Wilder fight. Very similar to what you... A lot of people are saying it's going to look like Fury versus Chisora 2. I don't think it's going to look anything like Fury versus Chisora 2, because I don't think he's going to be on the back foot like that, Fury. I think Fury will be trying to hold the center a lot more. He won't be tippy-tapping and setting up nice combinations and using as many angles. I think it's going to be very, very simple from Fury. Jab, jab, and then it's going to be the 1-2 over the top. That's what you're going to see. Jab, jab, 1-2 over the top. Jab, jab, established distance, 1-2 over the top. And I think once you catch Dillian with that, it's going to be hard for Dillian to recover. But we'll see. We'll see. Boxing pound for pound, Jack says the difference in reach between Fury and Whyte, 85 inch to 78. See what I'm saying? If that's true, that looks big. 85 to 78 inch reach difference in favor of Tyson Fury. Dillian sets up everything off the jab, you know, and that's the key in this fight. If Tyson Fury fights the way he's supposed to, Dillian's not going to have a jab, and that's probably going to be the beginning and the end. I think Tyson Fury's going to get him in the end of the jab and let a 1-2 go. That fight could end very quickly, you know. Seriously, that fight could end very, very quickly. It just depends on what Tyson Fury get. But if Tyson Fury's off, or if Dillian Whyte overperforms, if Dillian can get to the inside, be awkward, then Dillian can hurt Fury. Because Fury switches off in fights. And another thing that Fury does, and I'll leave it at this as well with Fury, when Fury's back hits the ropes, he drops his hands and he leans back with his chin in the air. So you never know. An overhand right from Dillian into left hook, you never know. Fury's always had that bad habit of when he's moving backwards and his back touches the ropes, what does he do? He drops his hands to his waist and he leans back, chin in the air, and he tries to ride the shots on pure movement. Now, Dillian can land something. He could do some damage on Fury. So Dillian's got a chance, but like I said before, I really do feel, to be honest, that if Tyson Fury comes in with the correct game plan, I honestly believe that this fight, that Whyte and Fury fight, could be over quicker than what people think. You know, quicker because when Fury lands that 1-2 on Whyte, you might see the end of the fight. Trust me on that. And that'll be the shot. I'm almost put my mortgage on it. That will be the shot that Dillian needs to watch out for. It'll be the 1-2. No special effects. Watch out for the 1-2. And if Dillian does make it into the inside, watch for the uppercut as well. Because Dillian's a sucker for uppercuts. Especially up close. The captain says, joining late, playing catch-up. Keep the stream up. Great work. Right, yeah, I think it's nearly time to go, isn't it? But let's just quickly see if there's any more news while we're still here. Galal Yafai has signed a long-term deal to sign with Eddie Hands Matchroom. I don't think that's any big surprise, given that his brothers fight on Matchroom. You know, I don't think that's really big news in the spectrum of what's going on today. I thought we'd have a little bit more news on this. I honestly thought right now we'd have a cast iron guarantee of what's happening. Joe says, Sorry, this is LH. He's replying to Joe. He says, think Sugar wants him to plant his feet and sit down on his punches, let alone switch stance. Yeah, he's not going to be doing any of that switching stance stuff. He's going to be planting his feet, but we'll see. I think that style's bad for an Usyk fight. I don't believe that Kronk style is very good for a fight with Usyk, but I think with Dillian Whyte, it's a different story. And I think you're going to see Fury push forward behind the jab, and he's going to look to land the 1-2 early and often. Simple as that. Fury's going to look to land the 1-2 early and often. And I think we'll get a feeling pretty soon. Don't be surprised if that Whyte and Fury fight ends very quickly. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see a very, very quick end to that fight. Let's have a look here. Get your last comments in. Joe says Whyte didn't like, and that's a fight that I need to watch, you know, the Marius Whyte fight. I haven't looked at it yet, but that's next on my list of fights to watch for Whyte. Because people don't understand. A lot of the people saying Whyte's going to win. Whyte may win this fight, yeah? But a lot of people saying Whyte's going to win the fight can't tell you how because they don't have a clue about boxing. If you look at the height and the reach alone, and if you look at the way Whyte sets up his shots, let me ask you a question about Dillian Whyte. Let me read Joe's comment first. Whyte didn't like Marius Whyte at 6'7", but to be fair, he was out of shape for that fight. Yes, but how do you guys think Dillian's going to make it to the inside of Fury? Or do you think Dillian can beat Fury from the outside? How do you think Dillian's going to work his way to the inside? If you look at Dillian's fight with Povetkin and Dillian's recent fights, do you think Dillian's very, very competent at making his way to the inside and closing distance without being hit? We'll have to wait and see, man. I'm interested to know how they think Dillian's going to win. Not just say a left hook. Tell me, how's Dillian Whyte going to get to the inside of Tyson Fury's jab without being hit with that 1-2? Dillian Whyte's a very, very upright fighter. Doesn't use head movement. He's a very, very upright fighter. Very, very reliant on setting up everything off his jab. Very, very reliant on being the bigger man in the ring. I think Tyson Fury is a completely different opponent to anything he's ever been in the ring with before. And that jab will be pumping at him. Be interesting to see how he gets past that jab, because that jab will be absolutely pumping at him. And the right hand will be following off that jab and all. Boxing Jack says, Lawrence Okolie beat up Whyte in sparring. No, he didn't. He was beating him up from the outside. What does Okolie have in common with Fury? Both have reaches 85 inches, both taller. I don't think there's any proven evidence that Okolie beat up Whyte in sparring. I think Okolie released some footage of him sparring that looked very good, very favourable to him. But I don't think he showed the whole thing. But maybe you've got a point there. What do you guys think about the Okolie and Whyte sparring? Did Okolie give Whyte problems with his height and his... I promise you, that height and reach is going to give Dillian big problems. I'm not saying he can't win, because you don't know what Fury you're going to get. And if Whyte somehow gets to the inside, it's fight on. But if Fury fights the way he's supposed to fight, it's hard. Right, let's oh, here we go. They have sparred many times. Oh, here we go, sparring rumours again. Oh my God, are you going to tell me about the time that Whyte dropped Fury in sparring, yeah? This magical time that Whyte dropped Fury in sparring. Here we go, we're going to be hearing about this again. Whyte dropped Fury in sparring. Never been proven. And even if it was, these sparring stories... Shall I tell you a sparring story? Here's a sparring story. Anthony Joshua got stood on his head by David Price in the EIS. Is that true or false? Talk about sparring stories. Did David Price not render Anthony Joshua unconscious yet in the EIS? Or did he not knock him senseless? Did that happen, yes or no? Did Anthony Joshua not get knocked virtually almost out of the ring by David Price in the EIS? Right? Right. Who would win in a boxing fight over 12 rounds? Anthony Joshua or David Price? Anthony Joshua would knock David Price out. So forget these fucking sparring stories, man. Forget this nonsense. Forget all this nonsense. Oh, Whyte. I've heard this crap for so long. Fury don't want to fight Whyte because Whyte dropped him in sparring. I personally don't believe that ever happened, but if it did happen, it happened. But Anthony Joshua got his lights put out by David Price in sparring. And Anthony Joshua went on to become the unified heavyweight champion of the world. Stop looking at these stupid sparring stories. Sparring and fighting are two different things. Go to a boxing gym and find out for yourself. Sparring and fighting are two completely different things. You don't go in with the same mentality that you do for a spar as you do for a fight. You don't. Anybody who's sparred will tell you that. You don't go in for a spar with anywhere near the same mentality that you go in for a fight. Do you know how many fighters look great in sparring? Boxing history is littered with fighters who look fucking amazing in sparring, but when the lights come on, they can't do it. When the lights come on, their head guards come off, and the small gloves come on, their head guards come off, and the lights come on. They can't do it. Forget sparring, man. AJ got stood on his fucking head by David Price. Does anybody really believe that David Price would beat AJ in a fight? No. So forget that sparring nonsense. It's nonsense. And again, nobody can give you a technical explanation of how Whyte's going to win this fight. You just get nonsense like Whyte knows how to beat Fury. Wait and see. Well, tell me the fucking blueprint then. Tell me how does he do it? How does he get past the jab? Tell me. With this, how is he going to do it? But they can never tell you. They just talk nonsense. It's nonsense about sparring that happened 10 years ago. Or it's some nonsense about ducking. It's nonsense. It's fucking nonsense. I've been asking for 2 fucking years. Tell me the game plan. I think I know what Fury will try to do in this fight. And I think I know what Whyte will try to do in this fight. But I've yet to hear any sort of concrete technical explanation of why Whyte would be the favourite to beat Fury. Anything can happen in boxing, right? I understand that. But I've never heard an astute technical explanation of why Dillian Whyte would be the favourite to beat Tyson Fury. All I keep hearing about is nonsense. Sparring from 10 years ago. Sparring from 10 years ago. Oh, he's scared. Make sure you go live after the fight. You won't be here for the fight. Because you won't even be here. What are you going to do? You won't even be here for the fight. Try posting again and you'll see that your post won't even appear anymore. You know, what the guys are talking about. Richard from Twitter says, Chris Lovejoy is a beast in sparring. There you go. Martin Bacola is a beast in sparring. It's sparring, man. Make sure you come back after the fight. You won't even be here because you're fucking blocked anyway. There you go. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? James Lord says, Ultra, have you seen that video of Akole Joshua sparring in Dubai? Sparring is nonsense, but that video was shocking for AJ. It's sparring, man. It's sparring. LH says, Julius Francis knocked out Lennox Lewis in sparring. Is that true? Do you remember when Sugar Ray Leonard nearly got stopped on his feet before the Marvin Hagler fight and then nearly pulled him out? Do you remember that? Sugar Ray Leonard nearly got stopped on his feet in sparring. Sugar Ray Leonard was nearly out on his feet in sparring before the Marvin Hagler fight. And they tried to pull him out of the fight and tell him don't take the fight, and he won the fight. It's fucking sparring, man. It's not a prediction of what's going to happen. There you go. Adrian Remedy says, AJ got beat up by a keep fitter in Finchley many moons ago in sparring. It is what it... We always hear stories about AJ getting knocked out in sparring, and then he always wins, doesn't he? For the most part. How many guys have said if AJ's been knocked out in sparring? Joey DeWeco was supposed to knock out AJ in sparring. Daniel Dubois was supposed to knock out AJ in sparring. Lawrence Okoli is apparently knocked out AJ in sparring. Would you pick any of those guys to beat AJ in a 12-round fight in the O2 Arena with all the belts on the line? No, you wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. These sparring stories are just stupid, man. Let's finish up. Dave Allen, he never dropped anybody. We've seen what Usyk did to Dave Allen in sparring. Right, let's finish up. So there it is. We'll have to wait and see. If there's any more news, we'll pop back. All right. Let's leave it there. As it stands, Anthony Joshua's turned down a step aside. In my opinion, not the right decision for AJ. But listen, I give him all the credit in the world, and it just shows in it that he's got heart. AJ, he's got heart to turn down that much money. He's got heart. Peace out.